Today is the coldest day of the year here in Miami, Florida. It's a perfect day to talk about deliberate cold exposure. And my computer just broke, so I'm gonna let this fly from my heart to yours without notes. Deliberate cold exposure. Cold exposure has meant so much to me on my path and journey. It's super buzzy right now in our culture for good reason. When we get into the cold, when we take a cold shower or we do the ice bath or a cold plunge, we get big boosts in dopamine and norepinephrine. Dopamine up to 250%. Again, dopamine is the molecule of motivation, of crave, of pursuit, of getting things done, of drive. And norepinephrine is the molecule of focus. We get a boost up to 540%. So we all want more motivation. We all want more focus. This is a way that most all of us can turn that knob, and it's very low-hanging fruit, so to speak, so we could access some of these endogenous neurochemicals and source, again, our own from within motivation and focus. In this video, I want to talk about the psychology of deliberate cold exposure. I want to talk about why this is so buzzy and such a big aspect right now in our culture. I'll share my time with Wim Hof. I think that Wim is almost single-handedly responsible for this cultural surge in people that are deliberately getting into the cold. And this is, again, a hormetic stress that we've talked about in depth when I had the episode around anti-fragility. There'll be more to come on that topic. But hormetic stress is a stressor that in a small amount is very, very good for us. In a large amount, probably could do some serious damage. And before we dive in, if you have any health conditions, please consult your medical professional before doing any ice baths. I think cold showers are going to be safe for most everyone, but if you're getting in, it will shock our system. It does take some time to adapt, and this is something that we do. Again, we adapt over the course of time, and it might not be healthy for someone if they have heart problems or high blood pressure to be jumping in a freezing cold plunge. So be sensible with that, and don't do this around bodies of water in the bathtub or in a cold plunge. Shallow blackouts have happened. People have died while passing out from the breath and then being in a horrible situation where they're in the bathtub or they're in a cold plunge. So be very, just common sense there, that's not to be mixing the two. We do the breath work separate. That's completely fine. That's safe. We've gone over that in depth, and the cold exposure is as well. But when we're mixing the two together, it can be potentially problematic. So again, why is this so big in our culture? I believe because of Wim Hof. And he's a Nordic yogi, a Dutchman who I first came across back in 2015. I'd heard him on a podcast and was really excited about some of his claims around mental health and around mood and energy levels, and just the fact that he has 26 Guinness Book of World Records, or 26 world records, and I think 20 Guinness Book of World Records for these wild feats. And there was a Vice documentary and all sorts of other documentaries where he's getting into the cold and he's showing his prowess in the cold and sharing the science and his enthusiasm. And I saw that and was thinking, whoa, this is something that I can do, and this is something that I need. And so I got curious about that. And then I believe a year later, I was in Europe on my 18-month travel journey where I was, my brother lives in Switzerland, so I had some time with him, and I was traveling around with a train pass in Europe, where I was bouncing around city to city, and I was there in a perfect timing when they did have a inner fire retreat, and I felt called to that, and it was a wonderful time. I wrote about this in depth in my book, Worth the Fight. You can find that at worththefightbook.org. And this was a cultural phenomenon that was emerging. There was, again, 65 to 75 seekers from all over planet Earth. And it was just a wonderful time, deep training. We did a lot outside and a lot of breathing and a lot of getting in very bitter cold December, streams and rivers and ponds in Poland. And it was absolutely brutal, truthfully. But I needed that. And I needed that. I was in a very vulnerable time on my travel journey. I was doing a lot of psychedelics in 2016. And it was December of 2016 when I trained with Wim and his team. And I needed that strong, grounded, masculine mentorship that I was lacking on my path. And it was just an incredible time to hang around with him and his team and pick his brain. And he was very available. We had lots of conversations, so much that he ended up driving me to the train station. That's how ground level this was. And I remember sharing my ayahuasca journeys and my psychedelic journeys. And he gave me some good wisdom and good pointers. Like, hey, don't lose your intention. Why are you doing those? Why are you engaging those ceremonies? And to hold on to that intention. Because I think he saw many, many people that were traveling, maybe untethered, that had lost their intention. And he could see where this could potentially be problematic in our culture. So his breathing strategy, ironically, is a powerful integration strategy that can help us integrate the experiences. And it's very synergistic with the psychedelic movement, because we can get into these quasi-altered states of consciousness with just the power of the breath and power of the mind, and embracing a little bit of discomfort. It's something that I practice every day. I do the Wim Hof for 20 to 30 minutes every morning upon waking. I'll first wake up, I'll have some hydration, some water with some Himalayan sea salt, or maybe an element pack, or a salt of the earth pack, and dive into my breath. And then I'm going for my coffee and diving into my work. That's been my workflow of late. And again, the Wim Hof Method is a cultural phenomenon right now. Wim, I believe it was 2015 when I first heard about him, but 2012, I think, or 2014, he was in Times Square, and he was in this ice tub with ice fully submerged to his neck, and he didn't lose his core body temperature. So that was something that really turned a lot of heads and got a lot of press. Just recently, in the last few weeks, I saw a picture of Shaquille O'Neal, the Hall of Fame basketball player, was apparently he'd released his book right at that same time. So he was in New York, and he got into the picture with Wim in the cold plunge, and maybe though he was doing some of the breathing as well, or just took the cameo opportunity as an opportunity to plug his book. But that was the year that this started to trickle out into our culture. Tim Ferriss had him on the podcast, and he's been on every single podcast. And there's some ultra compelling science to support that the breathing method can boost our immune system. It charges up our cell at the mitochondria level. It's good for pain and for inflammation. That's what I attribute, not the fact that I microdose from time to time as to why I'm 46 years old and absolutely obliterating my fitness goals. I believe it's because I have a strong breathing practice, and it's shifted and changed my relationship to inflammation, and therefore it's changed my edge. And again, my relationship to inflammation and pain. So if we change that relationship, then we can push ourselves a lot further. And Wim's message is, you're so much stronger than you think you are, and that we can all be healthy, happy, and strong. And he's right. We can embrace a little bit of discomfort. We can get in the cold. Again, the psychology, it was a little bit of a digression. Let's get back to the psychology of cold showers. And when I first started this, I could barely go for 10 seconds, and it was horrible. I was living in Wisconsin and Chicago at the time, and in Illinois. Wisconsin winters, Illinois winters are no joke. And the cold showers in December, January, and February are brutal. And most of the year they're brutal, and very formidable. And yeah, it was really challenging at first. And my brother calls it going Viking. When I first started going Viking, it was brutal, and it was hard for me to keep my breath and to keep my focus and to engage the discomfort. But again, this is a hormetic stress. This is good for us. This again is going to give us the big boost in focus and motivation, norepinephrine and dopamine respectively. And it's a way that we can cultivate the spirit of resilience. We're doing hard things. I think Mark Twain said it best. If you eat a live frog first thing in the morning, that's going to be the most challenging thing that you do the rest of the day. And so that's the same kind of ethos, the same kind of mindset here, is that if we do something really hard to start the day, then it's going to reframe everything that we do for the rest of the day. So it's going to make all the other challenges that we have, the tough conversations with loved ones, the business negotiations, the polarization in our culture, whatever it might be, connecting to our breath, knowing, hey, I've already been through a very big challenge and I can handle whatever the world throws at me during this time, because I've already sought out discomfort and healthy adaptive discomfort. So again, when we're starting the cold shower, 10 seconds sandwiched in the middle of a 5 to 10 minute hot shower. Again, most of us are showering every day. So there's an opportunity for us to start with the 10 seconds. And then the next day we go to 20 seconds with maybe a few minutes of the hot shower before, and then a few minutes after. And then we get to the point where we're just doing full cold showers. And for me, that was a moment. I do remember that moment where I was like, oh, whoa, I can do this for 2 to 3 minutes. And then this was a helpful strategy that I'll share with all of you, is to pick your highest vibration rock song or inspirational song. For me, it was Whatever It Takes by Imagine Dragons. And it's a 3-minute song. So these 2 to 4 minute songs, you press play. I had my phone in the bathroom, like on the mantle. And then I would say, you've got to stay in the cold until the song is over. And so that's a fun little strategy that can be helpful to, again, embrace the discomfort. We all feel so good afterwards, and just see how this affects your day, how this affects how you show up at work. There was a really interesting study recently that I put a video out about the Wim Hof Method. And it was done in Queensland, where they had showed that the Wim Hof Method beats just mindful meditation, and that the benefits accrue over the course of time as we get more proficient in this practice. This is a practice like everything else, and that people did report feeling more workplace safety. So I thought that was really interesting, that they would measure that, and that the verbiage in the scientific study was that the participants that were practicing the Wim Hof Method felt more workplace safety, in addition to more clarity and better energy and mood, if I recall correctly from that study. So again, this is something that all of us can do. And we just start where we stand. When I came back to Miami from my time away, I hadn't been doing the cold plunge for a little while. And I remember getting in the cold plunge for 10 seconds. I could barely do it. And then the next day I did 20 seconds. The next day I did 30 seconds. Next day I did 40 seconds. And then in a week or two, I was back to being adapted. So that's the approach that we do. We don't put too much pressure on ourselves, and we're finding our edge. We're pushing it at 3% or 3 to 5%. We can all push ourselves. The idea that our bodies are adaptation machines, and they will adapt if we program and instruct it to do so, and if it's a reasonable adaptation. And this again is a hormetic stressor, a healthy stress that will help us be more resilient, help boost our mood and energy levels, and then the benefits of cardiovascular health. When I first started doing this, my breath holds were 90 seconds. I had a lot of trauma in my nervous system, very, very wonky. My breath holds now doing this, and I know this isn't a video, this is a video about the cold, but not about the breath. My breath holds right now I've had breath holds over 4 minutes. And so this has completely rebuilt my cardiovascular system. So that has attributed to my gains at the gym and my health and my vibration and my fitness level. So I'm just, again, inviting possibility. And of course, I've been at this for a long time, since 2016. So it's almost a decade. So you start where you're at and you build at it and work at it. The Wim Hof app is really strong. It can help be an accountability partner for your cold showers and also for your breath work as well. The functionality is super strong. There's nothing that I would change about the app. It must be on its 100th iteration, and because it's, again, super strong. And I love turning this app on and syncing up my breath to the breath from the app. It's almost primal. It's almost like there's another human being sitting next to me and we're diving into this breathing together. And I just, again, sync up my breath to the cadence on my iPhone. So again, just inviting possibility, and I'll put the app and a few of the Wim Hof guided breathing sessions, which would be a good place to start. There's 3 rounds, kind of. These are YouTube videos where Wim is coaching, and it's kind of rah, masculine energy, rah, breathe, breathe, breathe. And then there's another one that's nature-based, where you're just following the breath. So again, that's something that might be, or those are some scripts that might be a good place to start. The cold plunging is the next level. And I think that's when we're going to get more of the dopamine and more of the norepinephrine. It's something that I do almost every day for 2 minutes. There's a very interesting and something that I'm going to be writing about and sharing about more in time. But I know personally many men here in Miami who have utilized the cold and resistance training afterwards and have more than doubled their testosterone. Mark Megna, the owner of the gym at Anatomy here in South Beach, he shares his journey. I think his testosterone was at 450 or 470 or something like that. And it went up to 880. And there's another, let's call him Ethan, a man that I've interviewed that I'm going to be sharing his story more in depth when I have more data around this and more accounts. His testosterone was at 300. He felt invisible. He just felt like he didn't have any affect or any essence. His essence was missing, and just was feeling no confidence and very low energy. His T at the time was around 300. And with cold plunging and resistance training, he got a trainer, he got motivation, he started maybe eating a little bit better, sleeping a little bit better. His testosterone more than doubled, and he showed me the results, or the Function Health, or I think it was a different service that he had used, had showed me that the data, so it more than doubled. So I'm just inviting possibility here, that this is something that, again, I've been doing for the last year. I know that my numbers have gone up slightly. I've got another test coming up here in the next few weeks. I feel as though the numbers have increased. It could be placebo. I don't know. I've been training really hard and lifting really hard and feeling really good. So we'll see, and I'll definitely be reporting back more on that. And that's just a really fascinating angle that we, especially now with the ubiquity of, again, Whoop devices, Function Health, we get our blood tests. I mean, it's just $365 to get your full panel at functionhealth.com, which is wild. This would have cost thousands of dollars years ago. So there's an opportunity for us to know where we stand. And of course, you could request this through your doctor and to have these labs prepped. But when we know, then we can start to make some of these adjustments and start to shift what we're eating, and maybe some supplementation, and to work on our sleep and stress reduction. There's so much we can do. So it's such a dynamic process, and one that I didn't think that we had an ability to change. And that's really exciting to think that we can impact it with lifestyle. And to the degree to which we can impact it is mind-boggling. And I think that if this information was out there in the collective, it would give a lot of people some incentive to embrace the discomfort and put in the hard work necessary. And what does testosterone do? I love Robert Sapolsky. He's a neuroscientist at Stanford, Dr. Robert Sapolsky. He talks about how it just gives you more of your essence. It's more of what you are. I think there's a little bit of digression, and people think that people with high testosterone are all jerks and assholes. And if they're jerks and assholes, then they're going to be jerks, more of a jerk or more of an asshole. And but the idea that this can give you more of what you are, more of your essence, is a very alluring notion, and something that I'm feeling more like Matt Simpson, more of my essence than I've ever felt in my life, ever. And that might be the case. There's a lot of other things going on. I don't know. I'll report back to it. But again, just planting that seed of possibility, and to know that there are natural ways. Of course, there's TRT. That's a whole different conversation. People are using creams to boost their testosterone. This is not that. This is doing it endogenously, activating our system to produce more hormones in a healthy, again, adaptive manner. So again, the cold could be beneficial for that. Getting into the science of that. We're already at 21 minutes here, but again, the boost in norepinephrine, boost in motivation. The cold is good for our mitochondria. It produces brown fat activation, or it activates brown fat, and that is something that is correlated with energy as well. It was once thought that brown fat is something that babies have lots of because they're, from an evolutionary standpoint, they can't care for themselves. So if they're ever kind of left out in the cold, they can activate this warmth to as a protective mechanism to keep them safe, because they're not going to run and go grab a coat for themselves. And it's thought that we lose our brown fat, but the cold exposure can start to regain that. And it's my understanding that brown fat is around our shoulders and our neck, and that is our mitochondria is very, very dense, and energetically it helps us to, again, activate more energy. Perhaps I'll put out more videos in time with a little bit of a deeper dive into the science. If you're curious about the science, there's a wonderful book called Uncommon Testosterone by Dr. Thomas Seeger. He's a professor of engineering, of all things, at ASU, but he's the largest purveyor of the premium ice bath, Morosco Forge. And I've really enjoyed his book, and he's a forward thinker. He's kind of out there with the cold and cutting edge, but everybody's sending in their labs. He's got, he shares daily people that have doubled or tripled their testosterone naturally by doing the cold and then doing resistance training afterward. And so again, you can check him out. He's got a big presence on Instagram. Get his Substack as well, but Instagram, again, I've seen so many of these accounts, and I do trust and believe that these numbers that he's sharing are accurate, and the accounts from his book are case studies, and it's real and grounded in science. And again, this is expanding our perception of possibility. And when we have our hormones are elevated, again, we're more of our essence and who we are and what we are, and our body's going to be stronger and it's going to work better. This feels like a good place to stop. Thank you so much for listening, and I'd love to hear your questions around cold exposure or your experiences with cold showers or cold plunging, or have you experienced anything with the hormones? This is, and I know we didn't talk much about yes, this is for men and for women. And I will create another video in time where we'll go in a little bit deeper. Again, this is something just be mindful of, and this won't be for everyone. And again, when we're getting into the cold, we're getting big surges in adrenaline, and that's the norepinephrine. And that is going to not be for everyone. And, but again, it's working on our mitochondria, and this is a hormetic stressor. So we just start low, we adapt in time, and then our body will adapt. But of course, if this is not working for you, then don't do it. But this is, again, I'm just inviting possibility. I think a few minutes per day can be good for and beneficial for almost all of us. So again, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below, or feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to serve. And thank you so much for listening. Till tomorrow, love and peace. Thank you.